Gundam.tk presents High Grade Extreme Gundam. Hey again everybody, it's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs from YouTube and Gundam.tk, and it's great to have you here. You've already seen the unbox, the plates, all the parts, and the mobile suit of the High Grade Extreme Gundam from Gundam Extreme Versus. What a game. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of good and bad things so that you can make a call whether you want to buy this kit or not for yourself. As he gets ready to head off for his day busking in the street, let's go through some of the bads first of all. What series is this from, you have to ask. High Grade Universal Century used to be this sacrosanct kind of line, and I'm sure that there's some purists who are pretty upset that they can just take a random High Grade 144th and just insert it and just put it under the title, yes, Extreme Versus. Now, if you don't have a problem with that, I think you won't care, but there's probably somebody out there who used to say, this line was great and I wanted to collect them all, until they started doing cheesy game inserts. In terms of bigger problems though with the model itself, the posability is extremely limited, and that's disappointing, and I'm talking especially with the legs. You'd think that the hips would be able to move, but they really hardly do, and you can't pull off one of the most important poses, which they only show you half of it on the box, so you think it's going to be good before you pick it up, and then it proves to be not that great. It's also a little bit pricey despite that, compared to especially some of the age kits where you get used to 1,000 or 1,200, things like that. 1,600, I realize there are a lot of clear parts, and yes, there are more than regular plates, but a lot of them are just duplicate plates, so really it comes across as a little bit pricey for what it is. In terms of the clear blue parts also, some of them are going to fall off, and I'm talking specifically the ones on the ankle armor. Those are going to be a problem, and a bigger problem is going to be just the weight issues with the weapons. The guitar is heavy, and that guitar case is especially heavy. The shoulders, they have mobility, but because of that mobility is just going to allow them to collapse down, and that's not going to work well for anybody. In terms of colors also, wouldn't it be nice to have a little bit of color in that guitar? I don't know how they could have done it. Even though it is made out of quite a few pieces, the guitar case does a decent job, but that inside looks very, very blue, and I'm sure the first thing a pro would do is at least paint that the same color as the shield. Also, the beam saber, yes, it's only going to be one color. They chose the right color, however, this should be white because the handles on the back are white, and there's a whole bunch of clear blue. Could not part of that have been the beam itself? Also, when you look at this guy, the back, does that not look cluttered to you with the beam sabers, the yellow V-fins, the ears with the blue stickers on them that can peel off a little bit, plus the busy double V-fin? Anyway, it just looks a little bit busy, and I'm not necessarily that pleased with the way they put the lining on the front. He needs a line down the middle or things like that. It looks okay, but it's not exactly the same way that his iconic face comes across as looking in the game. And as you look at him come around here, you'll notice that these clear blue parts are just very inconsistent. Sometimes they're on top of white, sometimes they're on top of line parts, sometimes they're on top of nothing. Sometimes you can see the pegs that are holding them in, other times they're on top of gray. So basically you're going to be getting a different effect from each of those clear blue parts whenever you look at that. But let's get right down to brass tacks. Yes, the biggest problem with this kit is that this is a last boss, and he doesn't have his power armor, which makes him very intimidating, and he comes with a guitar and shield. If you can get over that, there's a lot to like about this kit, but otherwise it's something that you might want to stop at right now just because of how silly this guy may seem. On to the good though, and you've got to ask yourself, yes, does Gact really care that he may have just been arbitrarily thrown into a beloved series and model line? He doesn't care, he's a rock star, and so is this Extreme Gundam. First of all, when you're going to go buy it, I gotta say that that's some pretty nice looking cover art there. You get a good shot of the head, which I think is one of its best features in the game. And yes, the actual cheesiness of the box, it's hiding the guitar case, and the guitar, it doesn't necessarily look like anything other than a weapon there. So they do a good job, and they got those blue particles which are shooting out all over the place, and that's its main visual impact, and it does a good job of capturing that and suckering consumers in, or just capturing their attention, into purchasing it. In terms of the weapons, actually, there's a lot of good things to see with that. First of all, you can see the way there that hand is holding it in. You've got two moving parts on the beam rifle, which is great. One of them is locked in at a 90-degree angle, and combine that with the fact that they took the time to put in that bend there on the manipulator, and you're going to be getting a great trigger finger that holds everything in because it's got a peg in it. Everything looks good, and they give you all the manipulators that you're going to need to put the beam saber in either hand. It's easy to get the shield in, so the weapons actually work, and yes, I said there could have a little bit more color, but this guitar case has a ton of color for something that actually has very few parts in it. Now for actual looks, I gotta say that just the Extreme Gundam with no weapons whatsoever, he's gonna look pretty sharp, and that's because he's got good proportions, he's got a tall and boxy structure, but he looks sturdy, and that brings you to the most important thing, and that's just the colors. He's got colors all over the place, and I'm talking on the back of the legs where you're hardly ever gonna see them. 3 on the legs, you've got those 2 parts on the shoulders. I wondered if the ones on the back would be necessary, but they look great being there. The forearms look great, and especially it's that one on the chest. You've got so many colors in there, from the blue, red, yellow, and the gray. Combine that with the clear blue, which runs all around and actually appears in 3 different places. Ingenious design, and if you like clear blue and just basically Gundams that have a little bit of pizzazz, this guy does, and it's for that simple feature. Another bonus that I like, despite complaining a little bit before, is that you've got the 2 heads. And when I was playing the game, yes, and you meet his Cubely form, then basically when you see that face reveal itself, you're like, hey, that looks pretty good, and it makes you like the model a little bit more. It's something you can paint, it's something you can modify to make it work. It's still good that they put that in rather than ignoring it. It's not perfect, but it's still better to have it than not. And the final good thing about this guy is, yes, the guitar poses. You can pass it off as a beam rifle, but he can hold a guitar and he can make it work, and that is an impressive thing for a 1/144th Gundam, which you'd think would never have a guitar in any circumstances. So ultimately, final verdict, do you hand this man change on the street? And my answer is going to be yes, and that's just because I think for me, I'm a big fan of Gundam Extreme Versus, and you play the game, and actually of course I hated this guy in the arcade because he was always taking my dollars because I'd lose to him far too often. And I didn't really necessarily want to buy this kit just from the arcade, but bringing it home and having it here as I play the game is just fantastic. He looks great, and that's the most important thing. Those blue parts over there, the color scheme, the proportions. This is an impressive Gundam, and if this was the Age 1 or Age 2 or Age 3 from Gundam Age, I think people would be quite impressed with the design. Whether you want to use the weapons or not, you don't have to. And yes, there are a whole bunch of detriments in terms of just the price and the posing and the posability and things like that. But if you can get over the fact that he's just a last boss from Extreme Versus, I'm happy to have him, and I think that if you want to go for just looks, he's a guy that you might enjoy having as well. But as he brings the whole band out here, yes, ultimately the decision, of course, is going to be up to you, and I've got my reasons for liking and disliking this kit, and what about yours, and how does that stack up in terms of whether or not you'd want to purchase this? Please let me know with a comment down below. Always great to hear from you. Anyway, everybody, it's Robert184, gundam.tk. Stay tuned for lots more reviews from the game, from the kits, and from everything in between. See you next time, everybody. Bye.